Hi, we're at Flame 2014 with Michot. And Michelle, I'd just like to ask a little bit about U.S. shale gas and LNG exports here. Security of supply has become a big issue in Europe, especially with the Ukrainian crisis over the past couple of months. And I'm wondering what your view is on what role shale gas has to play in perhaps lending a balancing factor to some of these fears.
In Europe?
In Europe.
Well, you currently have none. The crisis is now. So I guess that's sort of a problem.
It's going to take a while.
Yes. I mean, you're taking a really long-term view now. I think there are probably two issues. One is kind of even getting close to the speed of development that we've had in the U.S. and Canada,
right,
given the differences in industry and market structure and just everything, land ownership and so on. And then being able to get that done in time so that over a 5-year or so or 10-year horizon, you actually have a credible supply alternative that could play a role geopolitically. And that's a big ask, I think. And then the other side of it, of course, the flip side that we hear all the time across the pond is, can U.S. gas help? And
exactly.
All right, I'm going to be a real tough customer on this one and tell you, go to U.S. voters and they'll say, why should we? and especially because of the swirl of issues around the development of shale plays in the first place.
Right.
And so it's a tough sell to get people who feel inconvenienced locally by industry operations to accept that the minerals that are going to be extracted are for export, as opposed to the benefit of the U.S. economy, even though it helps to benefit domestic industry and that sort of thing. So the politics around all of this is really just as tough as the logistics are, and so I don't really see it. My reverse question back would be, I think it's time to talk about supply sources other than shale. I mean, we are really so biased towards shale plays, and actually to the detriment of other conventional gas plays. And Europe has conventional oil and gas that could be developed. And so, the question would be, why can't the Europeans internally look at that and come to some consensus on fostering development of resources if you really want a credible, competitive supply mix here. I mean, that would be a bit of different thinking, I think, on the situation.
Well, speaking of sort of, keeping it within sort of the political realm briefly here, when the Ukrainian crisis sort of kicked off, there were some sort of, there were voices in the U.S., politically at least, talking about how support should be given to the export efforts of the shale gas coming out of the Gulf Coast, essentially, towards Europe. Do you think that sort of drumbeat can be sustained going ahead, take into account all the other factors you've mentioned?
I don't think it matters. I think you could give a DOE certificate to every idea that everybody has out there, and it's a long haul from getting a DOE certificate to getting a commissioned project, and a lot of projects can't get over those hurdles just from a commercial basis. And I don't think that there's any interest in the United States in trying to promote anything that's non-commercial.
Right.
I don't think there's any way to do it. I don't think you'd be able to sell it. It's just the complexity of political issues around energy in the U.S. are such that I just don't think strategically anybody could pull it off.
Well, one of the sort of important factors in sort of having those exports hit the markets that they're destined that people have committed them to is the Panama Canal. I'm wondering what your view on the risk factors surrounding that are, because any delay would result in difficulty for the cargoes to get to the Pacific.
Everybody asks that question, and we get the question a lot. I actually visited the Panama Canal expansion a couple of years ago. I mean, it's a major works project, and it's a major commitment by the country. But right now, it is not a place through which LNG will transit anyway.
Yeah.
So one of the dilemmas here is the extent to which the Panama Canal Authority, the PCA, will actually allow LNG ships to transit. And then from a shipping point of view, The question is whether shipping through the Panama Canal is actually going to work the way people want,
Right.
and what value chain challenges that presents, and you know, our as we look at it, we've got probably one of the higher cost stacks for U.S. LNG exports
Right.
from different research groups, and looking at the debt that Panama is absorbing,
Right.
and the risk associated with that to get the expansion done, the fees they'll probably charge,
Right.
I think are going to be much higher than anybody expects. I think the operating expenses for LNG shipping through the canal are likely to be higher than people think. Most of the folks that on the shipping side that we've talked to are pretty skeptical
Right.
about having the kind of framework for shipping through the expansion that would really help with short-term, or even, if you want to use the word spot,
Right.
cargoes. And so it's going to take some time, I think. I don't think it's something that people would be able to count on, and I sort of feel like there are a lot of expectations. I know we could be
there
completely
certainly
wrong,
are, yeah.
but I think there are a lot of expectations out there that this is a done deal, you know, that with the expansion you'll see LNG ships transiting on a regular basis, and I think that's going to be a difficult thing to work through. But people are working on it, so you know, here in Europe, Society for International Gas Tanker and Terminal Operators, SIGTO, we're a non-contributory member. It's a great organization. Lots of dialogue between SIGTO and PCA on how to manage all of this and deal with the risk factors that people in Panama are concerned about.
Well, I guess only time will tell, because there's a lot of people banking on that LNG.
There are a lot of people, but you know, it's already having an effect, and this is something everybody forgets. In market economics, contestability is pretty powerful, right?
No, that's true.
So the Asians are
Yeah.
already benefiting quite well, thank you very much, from just the threat of physical cargoes and using that to their advantage. Now, to the extent that they would actually like physical deliveries from the United States, I would say go to Alaska. And that's something that I actually would say has a better prospect than lower 48.
Understood. Right. Well, thanks for your time.
Sure. Thank you.